Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Phillies. We're into spring training, just about to start spring training for the 2035 season. It's hard to believe we're kind of up to 2035. I've been doing this playthrough for a while. 19 years, this would be my 20th season, I guess. 19th or 20th, probably. But off season's over. It was fairly uneventful. Once again, the story is it's really hard to get good quality pitching. The AI is hanging on to it in this playthrough, and I wasn't able to pick up too much. What I did pick up, I'm hoping will help me out. We still have some good young talent on the team, fairly good balance offensively. So a few holes here and there, but I'm hopeful that we can be competitive. Our owner goals for this year, he just really wants a winning record, so that's not too bad. One goal that kind of surprised me, I don't know if I didn't notice this or just didn't pay attention, but he wanted me to acquire a Most Valuable Player award. I got close apparently with Luvia, but that's a tough order, without paying a lot of money, and I didn't really see anyone on the market in the offseason that I could afford or that was worth it. And this goal for 2036, so I've got a year to play around with it, but that projected balance is going to be really tough. Like I mentioned in the last episode or one episode previously, this is the worst farm system I've ever had with a team in this game, and the only way I'm able to stay competitive is through free agency and trades, and that's kind of eating into the budget. And as soon as I get a decent budget going, I'm going to have to pour it back into free agency. So that's I'm not sure that goal is going to be met. We'll see how I'm looking after next year. Unless I start winning, that might be what finally the owner finally pulls the trigger and fires me over that. I've been kind of waiting for that for a while. But we'll look at the off season first, and then this episode I'm going to play through spring training and might get to the point of figuring out who's going to make that final roster cut, but at least we'll have a better idea of how the team's going to look at the end of this episode. Starting first off, though, with the offseason center, we didn't have that great of an offseason. We lost several people. If you look at the wins above replacement gained, we're near the bottom at 5.8, negative 5.8. The only positive there is Atlanta and Miami had even worse off seasons, so especially Miami, and that's just the story with them. They build a competitor through the draft, and then they can't keep them because they don't have the money. But the only two teams who really were better than us in the National League East were still at a negative wins above replacement. The Mets were the best at 0.6 negative, the Nationals at 1.6. So at least maybe we won't lose too much ground and we can still be competitive. Might even play for a wild card this year or get close to that National League East title. But looking at individual players, what we lost, what we gained, some of these, I don't know if I had signed a couple of these, or I knew the offers were out there that last episode, but we did wind up getting Luvia, who is kind of my sleeper signing. I'm hoping with his individual ratings, he's a 4-star player both for me and OSA, for my scout and OSA. Great defender, great personality ratings, speed. This guy is a solid overall player, and I'm hoping that he stays healthy. His injury proneness is a big risk because he hasn't had a full season now. Well, 2 years ago he played 105 games, but he's really struggled with injuries the last couple years, so that's the only knock. But at 1.1 million, I felt like that's a gamble that's easy to take. And then the other two guys, Rob LaRue, I'm hoping is going to be he's a lefty. He's got fairly decent ratings. I'm hoping he'll be a good mid-rotation starter to pick up some of the slack we lost. And then Nehemiah Lucky, who's a good defensive catcher. He's been around for a while. Offensively, if he's healthy and if he's going strong, I think he could give me a boost in that department. If you look at his wins above replacement, he had been pretty solid there for a while until last year. So I guess the jury's out on him, but I didn't really have a good defensive catcher that I could go with full time. So I thought this was a pretty good pickup, and it was only for a year. And then looking at who I lost, we lost Sean Barge, who I didn't really plan on signing anyway, and he's still available in free agents. See, we lost Ken Telmy, who was injured most of last year and wound up signing with the Cubs for $14.3 million, way overpriced in my opinion. And then some of the other guys, we lost Ruiz, who was our starting catcher last year. We lost Josh Oakham, who was a starter, 2.9 wins above replacement. We lost, the rest were pretty much bench players and bullpen. So I don't think it was too big of a loss in terms of the players individually, but we definitely didn't have a big rash of signings this offseason. But one thing that I have done, and it's another gamble, but this guy is rated so well, and this is Chris James, starting pitcher. He's got great ratings pretty much in everything. Personality's not that great maybe, but 4.5 star for my scout and OSA. His individual stuff, ratings, and movement and control are great. He's just been injured so much throughout his career, and he hasn't really had the years that he had when he started out in the league. I mean, he was a 21-game winner, I think, at one point early in his career. Yeah, right here. Led the league in wins above replacement at one point. So he's probably well past his prime, and he is listed as wrecked. But he did have 31 starts last year, and I'm hoping that, with a better team, maybe if he signs with us, maybe better coaching, if he gives me 25 starts, for instance, 25 starts even, at $8 million, I think that's going to be an improvement with that rotation that I have, and I'll show you that in a minute, so you'll see where I'm coming with that. So I'm hoping that he does sign, and I can get some games from him. I'm not expecting a whole lot, but whatever I get from him, I think would be a bonus. One of the things too I wanted to check on just before, I don't know if I've done this in a while, but right before we get to starting the season here, we had nobody get voted in on the Hall of Fame this year. And Joey Votto is still, he got 71% last year. He's still kind of hanging in there, but I don't know if he's going to run out of time. And then David Price, same way. He's in his 9th year. I don't know if he's going to make it either, but the Hall of Fame class has gotten really weak all of a sudden. It's like the people that they're coming on available, just they're not putting up the numbers. So I don't know if there's anybody coming off next year who's going to have some good numbers, but a lot of these are people that we should be familiar with now. Players, a lot of them are players who are in the real life major leagues right now. So I feel like eventually there's going to be some guys start showing up who came through the sim, who didn't start playing here until I started simming, and it'll be interesting to see if they overtake some of these name players that we're familiar with. But unless Votto makes it next year, we might be looking at the end of the current players, that we're familiar with making the Hall of Fame in this playthrough, which would be, I guess there's still some out there. There's got to be some out there, that I'm just not recognizing. I mean, like Chris Bryant comes to mind. There's got to be some guys out there, but it's probably just going to take it a while for them to before they retire and everything. But I feel like, I guess what I'm saying, the players that are active now and have been stars in this league for a while, we're probably coming to the end of their runs. May not see too many familiar names showing up in the Hall of Fame voting for a while. But let's go ahead and look at the team as we head into spring training, and this is going to be the pitching staff first. We got a lot of pitchers to try. I usually go with 12 pitchers, so I know a lot of these guys aren't going to make it. But where we're strong is in the bullpen. We've got Zach Rowland, who I'm hoping will come back from last year, but he's a 4-star closer. We've got a couple guys here at 4 and 4.5 stars and 3 stars. We've got a solid bullpen, but really the pitching staff, if we just picked up one guy, that's why I went with James. If we just picked up one guy, I think our pitching staff would be really good. We've got 2 3-stars in Ood and LaRue. We got Prieto, who is actually 2.5 stars right now for my scout and OSA, but he's had some good years in this playthrough before, and he came on really strong when I first traded for him last year. He was a good pickup through the summer, but I'm hoping he gets back to that form. And then McSparron, I'm going to have McSparron low in the rotation. I'm hoping that helps him out. He's still got really good individual numbers. He's just not been able to put up a good season since 2032. But then in that 5th and 6th spot for now, Babone had a miserable year last year in that 5th spot of the rotation. 5.83 ERA, 15 losses to lead the league. I'm just hoping I don't have to rely on him this year. Furlong, he was in AAA most of last year. He was a guy I picked up in trade with Oakland, and I traded Vandenhoeven, who was first base flop, I would say, who I just could not get to be a good enough offensive starter to stay with. I'm just giving him a chance, but this might be Furlong's kind of last chance with us if he can't make it in that rotation, because I don't really think there would be a spot for him in the bullpen unless we have some injuries. But looking at the lineups now, we've got Lucky. I'm going to start over Kwarteng for now, and that's mainly because, well, let me rephrase that, against righties. I am going to have a platoon situation between these two. Kwarteng just doesn't have the defensive ratings right now, that arm especially, for me to rely on. His offense, though, looks really good. So at 23 years old, about to turn 24, another few years, if he keeps these offensive ratings going, he might develop into a good offensive player, but he's going to have to improve that catcher arm for me to keep him in there full time. But I'm going to do the experiment that I talked about last offseason or last episode. I'm putting Kevin Cox at first base. He is, when I picked up Villa, that gives me a similar rated left fielder. So those two guys were, one of them is going to make left field, and Villa was a much better defensive left fielder. And at first base, honestly, I've talked about it before. I feel like in this game, if there's one position defensively you can kind of, gamble on or not worry too much about, it's first base. And he is rated at 6 position ratings at first base, and that's literally the same as the guy who was starting first base for me a lot last year in Padilla, who's rated at 6. So I hope this experiment works out, because it would be nice to have Cox's bat in the lineup with Vargas and Tipton. And Vargas, I know I don't know what to do with this guy. And his ratings are still so good offensively, individually, and his defensive ratings, even though the range is pretty good, he doesn't have a good center field rating, but offensively he's still pretty good. He's got good speed, and he draws a lot of walks. His on-base percentage is high. I'm going to go with him at the top of the lineup again. I know there was a subscriber who mentioned that I needed to move him down, and I agree. I do. It's just I still feel like he's the best option unless he just starts playing really badly. I think he's the best option to lead off. And then Ma, Lohman, those are those 2 big pickups from last offseason. They're going to anchor the lineup in the middle of the lineup. But with Villa there in that 3rd spot, I'm really liking the way this lineup looks against righties. I'm going with Van Singel at short. He's rated pretty good defensively at short, got great speed, very good personality ratings. But after I traded for him from Baltimore last year, he was kind of a so-so player. I'm hoping that he develops a little bit. He's rated a little bit. Well, he's rated the same actually against lefties and righties. Whether that matters or not, I don't know. But I'm hoping that he'll be okay. Koopman is really a better offensive choice if he plays up to these ratings, but his defense is not as solid yet. He's still young. He's got a chance, I think, to work his way into that starting lineup, though. But for now, I'll probably have him as the utility infielder once spring training starts. And then I got several guys in the outfield that I think could be in the mix. Although Andres, his ratings are taking a big dip. He's got some pretty good overall ratings. I think Dutch is a good guy to have backing up center and right and left. Good speed, good power. Those would probably be the two guys if I was thinking right now. Those would be the two guys I'd go with. But Catula has also been pretty good off the bench the last 2 years for me. So in some ways, I think the lineup is not too bad. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Barring injuries, I think we could be okay. But I'm going to go ahead and start simming through, and hopefully that James offer will come through pretty quick so he can get some play time in spring training. And so we got an update here, and Chicago's offering him more money. I figured that we'd probably have we'd have a bidding situation going on. I'd still take this guy for 9.5. That's how badly we need pitching right now. And I've got a trade proposal here from Pittsburgh. Jerry Bowles, who's listed as a starter, but he's wrecked, and he's at $10.4 million. I don't think I want to go for that with those James offers out there. So he liked that last offer. We'll see if any other teams kind of come in and offer him some too. So Minnesota's offered me a trade here, another pitcher for Kevin Cox. And this is TJ Armstrong. Wow, he's coming off a good year. But I don't like his control that much. And this rating right here, it is a starting pitcher. He is rated as a starting pitcher. OSA, he's a 3.5. He's durable, thick-headed, but good leadership skills. I like his personality ratings. My scout thinks he's mid-rotation. Let me sit on that one, see how the James one comes out. So here we go. Shutout of Colorado, that's good. And now the White Sox are up their money. I'm not going to go too much higher on this guy. 11.9. This will be. You know what? I'll go 11,250. Not that matters, but that's as far as I'm going to go. And if that helps, then I'll be okay with it. So it looks like we're starting out pretty good. We're 4-1 in spring training. Oh, now Atlanta's wanting to get involved here. I've got the money. I said I wouldn't do it, but I'll meet his demand, and this is it. That's final. Can't afford to let Atlanta pick him up, man. That'd be terrible. So we're 5-1, 5-2. Atlanta's undefeated in spring training. The White Sox still going for this guy. Let me see what my scout says about him. Yeah, I mean, they're saying he's a number one starter. No, not 15. This guy's probably not going to pitch half a year. That would be money down the drain. Let me look if there's any. If there's any free agents out there still, starters. Look at pitching ratings. Chris James is it. and that's why he's getting so much activity right now, because after Chris James, the rest are just really filler. I mean, two-star. I mean, I don't even have the money to go up to 15 million right now. Yeah, I don't even have the money to do it. So we're gonna have to take a flyer on that one and hope that some of those guys can hold out in that fifth spot of the rotation. Toronto, they're wanting to give me another one for Kevin Cox. This is a starting pitcher, Tim Moore, got great individual ratings. He's not going to be eligible for arbitration until next year, but look at those home run totals: 40, 34 the last 2 years. ERA's well above 5. Don't like those numbers enough to do it. Now, if I go back to that Minnesota trade proposal, TJ Armstrong. I mean, he's still just a middle of the rotation starter. I don't want to lose Cox right now. I'm gonna play through this week and see. Atlanta's still undefeated. Holy cow! And we're not too far behind him. Let me take a look at the spring coverage. We are 8-2 and they're 10-0. So great start for both of us, really. But looking at the pitching staff for the spring so far, it's not a whole lot to go on. McSparren has looked good. LaRue, those two guys in their 2 starts have looked good. Furlong has looked okay in just the 1 start. Bullpen looking really solid, so I'm not too worried there. The biggest thing is who's going to make the cut in that bullpen. And then for the lineups, Lucky's having a good spring. Loman, singles look good. 357 average. Kevin Cox is looking okay. Lou Villa is looking amazing. 391 average. Vargas looking good. Tipton. Yeah, and I'm not going to trade Cox right now. I think if I had just a little bit better option at first, I might go for it. But those first base choices there are just terrible. There's not one of them that really deserves a start. The only thing Padilla brings to the table is his offense is not too bad. The ratings, especially against righties, is really good. It's just, is he going to show that? I don't know if he is. Plus, he was injured a little bit last year. So we win again. We're 9-2. And I don't know if Atlanta's still winning. No, they finally lost. So they lost their first game. Now we're right behind them. So Chicago Cubs, they would trade me Brad DeWolf. He's coming off 2 really good years there, back to back. He is a starting pitcher. He throws right. The only thing would be his control is a little bit of a concern. Rated at 11. But he's got good stuff. He's 29. He's signed. Oh, no, that's the problem. He's got a very high back end on that contract. Yeah, I'm going to have to pass on that one. So we're 12-3 and 13-3. We just beat Atlanta, who just lost Seth Beer for 3 to 4 weeks. So look at these records now going in here. We are tied with Atlanta at 13-3 for the best record in the National League. Minnesota is 13-3 in the American League. Tampa Bay looking pretty good. Arizona looking good. Pittsburgh looking good. Washington struggling. Rangers, Toronto struggling. Individually, let's look at the lineups first. So Lucky has looked pretty good. So that was first baseman that we're talking about. They're starting to look good. Kevin Cox, pretty solid. I don't think that's anything to be alarmed about. Vargas, Tipton, Villa, those guys are looking good. So I do think offensively, I like what I see with the lineups. I like what I'm seeing quite a bit. Now pitching, Furlong is still looking pretty good. Way better than Babone. So Furlong, I think, would be my pick for the moment in that fifth spot. And the rest of that starting rotation outside of Ood is looking pretty good too. Prieto, LaRue, Danny McSparron, 3 starts, 0.75 ERA. That's very good. And then the bullpen, a few guys stand out. I don't think Padgett's going to make it. I don't think Caps is going to make it. But there's some other guys here who I'm really going to have to decide what to do. So how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I got to whittle that down to 7. So there's a lot of movements going to be happening there. Espinal's looking really good. I think this guy, I might go with what my scout is suggesting, and after this year, put him in as a closer. And honestly, if he looks good early on, I might trade Roland or throw Roland out there. I wonder what Roland would bring me right now. So there's quite a lot of pitchers here. Sean Gibson at Boston. I've seen him come up quite a few times. He might be an okay option. He's actually signed 2 years. Well, next year's even less than this year. That's a possibility there. Some high contracts in the list as well, but I'll revisit that. I think that might be a good option to kind of have in my back pocket. All right, so let's go ahead and play another week. We're 14-3, 15-3, 15-0 over Colorado. Villa, great game. He led off that game. Tipton, Quartang. Offensively, just looked really good. Ood finally got a good game there. 4 innings, shutout innings. Ernesto Valley. He's got some pretty good individual ratings, except for that control. So we're 15-3. Finally lost a game to Pittsburgh, and we've got a international find here. Those are really poor for the most part, and Zunzu's come up a few times as a see if I'm interested, and really not. So we're 15-5. The Braves are probably gonna overtake us there. Koopman, a minor injury, and Villa, I was afraid of that, and so he's going to be out now for 5 weeks. So at least I want with it still being like midway of spring training, hopefully that won't be too bad for me. But I'm going to keep, I think I'm going to keep, for now anyway, I'm going to keep Kevin Cox at first base. I still want to give him some time there. And against righties, who do I want to go with at left? Catula, maybe, against lefties, and then put Dutch in there. This will change it up just a little bit. I'm also trying to get Condrey, who's a rookie. I've been trying to get him some play time, but I don't know if he's gotten much this spring. I'll take it back. He's gotten 40 at-bats. Okay, so that'll set the righty lineup. And then against lefties, I'm going to go with... actually, I'm going to go with Stern. Yeah, let's see. Give Stern some play time. And Condrey. Well, Condrey's going to be and then Catula against lefties. At this point, I'm not sure how much it's going to matter, but all right, that'll do it to get us through the spring. So we're 15-6, a game behind Atlanta. We got a trade proposal here from Texas, and they a left-handed pitcher, Danny Gregoric, starter. Pretty good. He's a free agent after this year, but he's had a pretty good run. And they're wanting Juan Mendoza, who, in all honesty, I think I want to keep this guy, even though he didn't have a solid year last year. I think there's a lot of upside to him, so I don't want to trade this guy right now. So we shut out the Mets. And getting close to the end of the spring training, we are half game above the Braves. Tampa Bay is at 16-6, Minnesota 17-5. Some teams having really solid springs here, us included. Haven't had this kind of a spring in a while. Dusty Goals, 22 years old. Man, this guy's young. Definitely has some upside. I don't like his stamina. I think that could be a downer. And stamina, maybe at 22, maybe stamina is something that would... I don't want to work too hard on that, but stamina at that age might be something that you could possibly improve on. 17-6, 18-6. I'm not even going to bother with that. It's so hard to get those trades to work. So 18-6, 18-7, 19-7, 20-7, 21-7. I think that's going to be how we finish the spring training. Royals lose Ben Womack. I think that was a big signing for them a year or so ago. He's a big free agent, but it's just a day-to-day injury. Season done for Dave Stuber. Thought that name sounded familiar, but he's just kind of a journeyman player. So looking at the coverage right now, spring coverage, we finished with a 21-7 record, tied with Atlanta for the best record in the National League and all of baseball. So a very solid spring, but typically that doesn't really mean a whole lot. And also typically it doesn't help that Atlanta had that season that they did too. I don't know if they got Chris James. Let me see who. I haven't seen if Chris James was signed. If he's still available or not. Yeah, he's still out there. Now he's wanting $25 million. Good luck. I'll let somebody else tackle that one. I thought for sure I might have a run at him, but didn't realize, I guess, that pitching is pretty much eaten up. There's no starters left. So let's go ahead and look at the starters first, and I will have to go offline to decide on who's going to make the cut. But I can tell you right now, Babone is not going to make it. I think I'm going to have to send him back to AAA, and he might get picked up on waivers, but that's just the gamble I'll have to take with him. So I'll be going with a 5-man rotation, and it looks like Furlong, if he keeps it going, I know he's not rated too well by my scout or even OSA, but we'll see if he's got a chance here. And then in that rest of the bullpen, Medina stunk it up, but I'm going to stay with him. He's a good lefty option there, and he can start if I need it. Everybody else though looked really solid. I've got some choices to make here for sure. The only one that really probably won't make it right off the bat is Caps. He's just a 2-star, and really, when it comes to bullpen, my bullpen is solid enough that he's not up there ratings wise to make it, and he's also going to be going on that waiver wire. But I'll finish that up offline. We'll look at the lineups now. Lucky did finish pretty strong. 3 home runs, 16 RBIs, led the team in RBIs. So he will for sure be starting against righties. And what I'll probably do is move Quarteng down to starting every 7th game. He did pick up catcher position rating, though. That's good. He went from 10 to 11. Ma was pretty slow, and Lohman, they didn't have too good of spring. Singel had good enough that I can feel good about his staying in that starting lineup. Condry, this guy's going to have to develop a little bit. He's a potential 4-star from OSA, but he's just never shown it numbers-wise. Kevin Cox looked pretty good offensively. Catula, Vargas had a really good spring. Tipton looked good as well. So I'm going to have to make some choices here in terms of who I keep up. I usually go with 5 outfielders, so that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So one of these guys is going to have to go, and I don't know who it's going to be. I want to keep Koopman, so 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I've got to whittle down 3 guys here. Two of these guys are going to go for sure, and then one of these outfielders is probably how I'll go with it. Or if Dutch, for instance, he's rated at first, but Catula is rated at first. So honestly, even though Padilla had a good spring, I wouldn't be opposed to. Well, I'll have to think about that, because until Villa comes off injury, I could keep Padilla up to play first, put Kevin Cox back in the left. Yeah, those are the decisions I'm going to have to make. I'm going to have to get down to 25. That means I got 6 guys I'm going to have to move down to the minors. So it's going to be some deliberations here. And plus, April 1st is usually when the next scouting report comes out. I'd like to see how some of these guys either improved or didn't improve their numbers before I make that final thing, but I don't think I'll have a chance, because it looks like spring training, opening day is the 29th, so I'll have to have my rosters settled by then. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks for watching, and appreciate the comments and likes, subscribes. Next episode will probably be start of the season, probably play ahead a month or so and see how well we start out. I'm hoping that record in spring is a good indication of what we can do this year. And if so, we might be back in the playoffs. It'd be really nice. If you look at our history now, we have been out of the playoffs for 1, 2, 3. Well, it's been 3 seasons. 2032 is the last time when we had that 94-win season. I'm hoping that we can get back. It'd be really nice. I'm hoping to make the World Series, and that's how I would like to play out this thing. I mean, I would like to get to the World Series, hopefully win it, and then maybe I'll move on to another playthrough. But for now, I'll keep it up until then, and I appreciate you guys staying with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next episode.